All right, Steelers fans, welcome in. It's week 18. Steelers win and they're in. Who is their most likely opponent, and who do you have confidence they would beat? Who do you most want to avoid in that NFL wildcard weekend? Like the video if you believe they will get in. Leave a comment on who you think they can beat and who you'd rather they avoid here as we get into this on the Knoll Road. Dawson and New Bear, here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, it's for a touchdown!
Welcome into the show. And before we get into who we want to face and avoid, just a quick conversation about how much this sucks right now. Dude, the Steelers are 3.5-point dogs to the Ravens right now. It's like Vegas is looking at it not as a coin flip, not as Steelers are favored because they're at home, but they must feel like Lamar Jackson is going to play and the Ravens are that much better. I think genuinely, I think it's a Vegas mistake. Neither one of these teams is, without significant flaws right now.
Well, that's part of the premise. Whether you talk about it's scripted, it's rigged, it's the WWE crowd, and here we are with everything that has been asked for. They get to flex into Sunday night, and we get to wait all day and find out who takes the North. How do you drive interest in that? I mean, if you just play it straight, right? I mean, Vegas is trying to get in on this action as well, whether Lamar plays or not. I don't think there's a whole lot of confidence in Mike Tomlin and the rest of this group that's going to be out there, especially without a TJ Watt, and especially with how 8 has been playing, because it ain't been great.
I mean, Baltimore has massive issues in coverage with their pass rush, with their protection. I mean, are they saying they like Tyler Huntley and Derrick Henry better than Aaron Rodgers without DK Metcalf? I don't see it. I think that's disrespect, and I would say that I'm seeing disrespect all over the place with people assuming the Ravens are like a Super Bowl contender that Lamar Jackson is just hurt for. They're not really recognizing, what I think what Ravens fans recognize. Like the national media is on to Mike Tomlin is not a playoff winning coach, is not an elite coach. I think they're still believing that John Harbaugh and these Ravens are nasty and a real strong contender in the AFC if they do get in.
Well, I'll tell you why that narrative changes. It's because all season long, all of the things they were trying to mitigate with Lamar being in and out, up and down, hip bone connected to the leg bone, connected to now his back, all these things that are really catching up with him and all the different things that we've seen, out of the Baltimore camp all season long, which for the record, Harbaugh said they'll know much more tomorrow. So like Wednesday is the day that they get the 50-50 grade, or is he going to trend toward being able to play? And either way, I don't think anyone's expecting Lamar to show up and all of a sudden turn into MVP Lamar and be, PlayStation cheat code Lamar. And I don't think that matters. This is what matters. All season long, Baltimore was trying to stretch Derrick Henry out. They were trying to get him to a place where until they absolutely had to, they weren't going to give him the ball 40 times a game. And what just happened? Win or go home. They just turned around and ran the Tecmo Bowl playbook. And if you know nothing else going into a win or go home game, you know that Baltimore has no choice but to do that again. And you believe in that more than any other part of this showdown.
Yeah, but Derrick Henry is not the player that he was at his prime, and this season has been up and down for him. I don't know. I'm not sure the Steelers are going to win by any stretch of the imagination, New Bear. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But I think at home they're being disrespected here. And in a game where the total is 40.5 points, to have one team as a 3.5-point favorite, that's crazy. I think the Steelers could easily lose this game. But just from a value wagering perspective, that's the kind of opportunity that I look for. I love home dogs in general. And then home dogs in low-scoring games of higher than a field goal. I think that's the kind of stuff where value is created. But here are the numbers on who is most likely going to be their opponent in the wild card round if they do win. I guess we could say who the AFC North winner's opponent will be. The Texans are the favorite to land the 5 seed by somewhere between 68 and 73%, depending on which projection you're looking at. The Bills are around 17%. The Chargers are at 8%. And the Jags, who get to take on the Titans in Week 18. I guess they could fumble, fart around, and figure out a way to lose that game. But their chances of being the 5 seed are at 1%. I think their chances of winning that division right now are over 95%. So you're probably looking at the Texans. And for me, my initial reaction would be that defense is tough, man. They're winners of 8 in a row. They're making deep plays down the field. I guess their protection is rough. Their run game isn't great. There's ways you can beat Houston, but I do not like going up against the super hot team, especially a super hot team with a great defense. And I just think what we just saw in Cleveland, maybe it's PTSD for me, but did you know that over the last 8 games now, the Steelers have scored 10 points or less? And I want nothing to do with a super stout defense if I can avoid it.
Did you say super stout or super Stroud? Because I think that's the narrative that I'm the most interested in is which CJ Stroud will the real one please stand up? Because I really got into the game last week. I'm a big Justin Herbert fan, big Harbaugh guy, relative to how they just do business and relative to watching Justin Herbert run for his life. I mean, the young man is down just about everyone up front, and there are plays that, you talk about one-on-one stuff where, he is under pressure from the snap, on the move, laser cannon, rocket ball. He's just a special talent, and it's unfortunate that they lose both of their stellar bookend tackles, that they've had, other injuries, and everyone's dealing with stuff. But the thing that really stood out to me about the Chargers and Texans showdown was CJ Stroud came out with his hair on fire. What was he, like the first quarterback since Mahomes 1,000 years ago to throw 2 40-plus yard touchdown passes in the first quarter? And it looks like he's going to throw up a perfect quarterback rating, and they're going to just run away. And all of a sudden, you're talking about, the refs, and you're talking about one play and a 4-point, another 1-score game, which is why I get so mad when people get off the script and talk about game flow. Like, just miss me completely with that. These games, they all come back, right? Like, what did Tomlin say? Those guys, the other guys are getting paid too. So in a league that's so close, what's the other phrase that he likes to talk about? The top of the football playing pyramid. So I just think that CJ Stroud is still so streaky that you could catch him, trick him, get him in a place
Absolutely.
where they think they're front running and they're going to run away with something, and you're able to kind of punch back, and get into one of those Rocky Balboa moments where, at the end of that 15th round, you're the one who's coming out on top.
Yeah, my fear is not CJ Stroud related at all. It's the fact that even when that offense has struggled, and it's boom or bust, even when it has struggled, they figured out to win games. Your offense shrivels up and dies for 3 quarters of that game, and you beat one of the strongest teams of the AFC.
Sure.
So that's why I want nothing to do with the Houston Texans if I can avoid it. The team that I want to get your thoughts on is Buffalo. And, it's crazy to say it. It's counterintuitive to think about that because how bad they beat you 3 weeks ago. And the probability is not very high of this happening.
21 is the highest number I've seen. You said 17 earlier. I think it's like 17 to 21. It's likely going to be the Texans, but like you said, you never know, right?
Yeah, and Riley Leonard, I think, needs to win for the Colts against the Texans as part of what all needs to happen for this to come together. And it's crazy, but when you really drill down on Buffalo, it's wild that they kept you to 6 points. Like that was the absolute low moment of the season. I think Aaron Rodgers might have been really struggling with his identity. I think maybe he was playing scared with the wrist there, and it was just a horrible day overall. And Josh Allen is incredible. Other than the Chiefs, his playoff record is 7-2. He's been in the AFC title game multiple times. He's played like an MVP in the playoffs. Like the best quarterbacks, their numbers are like 10% better once you get to the postseason. That applies to Josh Allen as well. But I just think they lead the league in blown tackles. They lead the league in several other defensive categories that you don't want to be leading the league in. And this is your opportunity. Plus, I think it's often advantage when you come around and meet a team for the second time after they beat you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that's really interesting about it is like everything that went wrong for Pittsburgh. Normally, you would say, okay, well, everything went right for Buffalo, and in that game, Josh Allen didn't have to do a damn thing. It was James Cook, student body left, student body right, and then let's bounce this thing outside. And when you think about the simplicity of that, Tomlin, if there ever was a leader of men moment, is going to have that on every TV, is going to talk about the 29 or 31 runs in a row, is going to challenge people's manhood. This is going to be a buck up. This is going to be a neck roll and thigh pad, type of strap in and old school football. Let's get back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the young Mike Tomlin, the hungry Mike Tomlin, and those guys left over from the Bill Cowher days that maybe were playing a different game. And the thing that is the most interesting about the Bills is they seem to, even as Josh Allen has really found this place where he doesn't make those same kind of boneheaded triangle squirrel type of moments. And then you see what happened last week with the negative 50-yard fumble where it's still in there, right? Like you can take the kid out of Wyoming, but you can't take the Wyoming out of the kid. Like there's still some of that cowboy in him. And, most of the time it pays off and it looks like an MVP trophy and it looks like a win and it looks like a fantasy football league championship. And then every once in a while it rears its ugly head and it puts them behind the sticks. And with that team absent, James Cook is really good. But if you're able to bottle him up, and basically anything other than what happens the last time these two teams matched up, you like how you match up across the board with these guys.
Yeah. I think if healthy, your roster is better. And it kind of goes to, would you rather have the better quarterback or the better roster? And I don't even know how you answer that question. But if I'm the Steelers, I'm thinking, guys, they came in here a month ago and set the Acrisure Stadium rushing record. We're going to do it back to them today. That's what I would say, and I would partially be doing that to condition Aaron Rodgers to expect a heavy dose of Warren and Gainwell. Here's the stat I found. I just alluded to it a minute or two ago. They're also dead last in the league in yards per attempt on the ground, 5.3. 5.3 a tote on the ground. The Bengals and Cowboys are better than them at stopping the run. If you just put that in your mind and have it crystallized, like I don't know how the Bills have survived all year, but I know this is January and you got to come up with a game plan optimized to punish them. I don't know how much you can trust the Steelers coaching staff to do that right now, though.
We talked about the everybody eats thing going into the matchup, and it turned into, James Cook's just getting every damn plate and it's going to be full and it's not going to be, it's going to be a long night for you. That was a rough week. And what is staggering about this team is on nights like they just had in the rain, albeit, and you might get a weather type of game here in Pittsburgh if it is Buffalo, you hold Cook under 4 yards a carry. I think he had like 75 on 20 carries. Then it's like, who steps up? And it was real interesting. Your boy Brandon Cooks, the little engine that could, had a day. He had 4 for 100. And, you're waiting for a Shakir. You're waiting for one of those tight ends. You're waiting for anybody else to take the pressure off. And what's so interesting about the Buffalo team is when any one guy, if it's Josh Allen and he's dispersing the ball and he's the guy, lighten it up. That's one way. The other way is for someone else to just win their one-on-one matchup, or for one group to win their one-on-one matchup, whether that's James Cook in the offensive line or a receiver or a tight end. And the thing that's so tricky about the Bills is they haven't figured that out yet, what they're going to be week to week. So if they go into a game coming into Acrisure and they expect the same thing to happen, and all of a sudden TJ's fresh, and all of a sudden you've seen Sawyer step up, Herbig, Highsmith, all of a sudden you get, playoff Cam, all of a sudden you get, Hampton, or not. We're going to talk about Harmon. Forgive me. I was thinking of Omarion with the Chargers and get into that matchup. But, all of a sudden, if you slow James Cook down and you put it on Josh Allen and he tries to force one to Brandon Cooks and Joey Porter Jr. is able to squeeze one, right? Or Duggar is able to remember how to play center field when the ball's underthrown and not look like he's shaving points. Like, all of a sudden you take one back the other way, you put the pressure on them, and the narrative switches because guess what? You brought up his playoff record. against everybody but Mahomes. And he has acquitted himself well in those games. Mahomes has just done Mahomey things, right? And
Yeah.
the thing that's so crazy is without Mahomes and without Burrow, this is, regardless of the seed, the narrative is that this is Josh Allen's AFC to lose.
It is. And part of that, I think, goes to their mindset that could lend to overconfidence when they step into Pittsburgh. Like, I think you said it, you assume things are going to go the same if you are the winning team and your advantages were your advantages. But something wakes up. It's like pride and imagination and innovation and being hungrier, being embarrassed, especially on your own home grounds, to come back and have that opportunity to prepare for an opponent like that. You come out with a different energy. You come out with a different resolve. You're no longer in like a late season malaise and depression as everything has gone wrong. The calendar is flipped and things feel fresh and feel new. And for those reasons, I would just love the Steelers' chances to go out and play significantly different against the Bills. And that's why, I would prefer that matchup strongly as opposed to the other two. Houston coming in around 70% probability, and then the Chargers around 5 to 10%. And the Chargers are crazy. Like when their tackles went down, let's go ahead and flip and talk about the third most likely team here. When their tackles got hurt and they went through some struggles, I was like, okay, it's not meant to be quite yet. But their defense has come around in such an impressive way, and they've mitigated the injuries to their running backs, and now they're healthy at running back again. And it's like, yes, Slater and Alt are great tackles, but what they're able to do in the run game isn't that much different than what Alt and Slater gave. They really feel their absences when they have to pass a bunch. But if they can play defense and run the ball, the Chargers are a damn difficult team to beat. I have as much respect for Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter as I do, a couple of coaches that are out there. So what are your thoughts on the Chargers?
So one of the things that I was going to bring up straight away about them, and it was going to be my closing point about Buffalo, is that anytime you have a Bosa, anytime you have like a couple of those dudes, right? And those guys by themselves can wreck a game. I mean, look at and I'm not saying that Bosa's Myles Garrett, but look at what the Steelers just felt like they had to do to mitigate Garrett, and people, the narrative being that that's what cost them the game, the conservative nature with which they funneled the entire rest of the offense outside of what you had to do to overcompensate against Myles Garrett. So if you have to do that against a Khalil Mack, and now you're wondering, where is Derwin James on every single damn play? Like, Chargers have dudes at every level that you have to game plan for and have to know where they're at, because if you don't, they can wreck your day.
Yeah. Tui Pelotu is a great player. Mack, Dupree, Owe, like they got dudes on that pass rush, and this team has now held 5 straight opponents to 20 or less. That includes the Cowboys, who have one of the top offenses, the Eagles, the Chiefs. It was just the Texans, who, as you mentioned, was on pace to score like 65 points. You hold them to 20. Yeah. They're 6-1 in one-score games. I guess that's 6-2 now as I update these stats. Now, they're beatable, but man, their receivers are all good. Like, they're going to test all of your corners. None of your corners can have a bad day, or the corresponding receiver is going to, absolutely break your back with 30, 40-yard. You see all the throws that Justin Herbert makes. And I don't know how you feel about Herbert right now. I got to watch him quite a bit the last couple of weeks. I still don't feel like he's there. I think he's got all the tools to be there. There's just something in his brain that does not allow him to be that superior quarterback. He's got everything that it should take to be amazing. And if he was Josh Allen, Drake May right now, I think the Chargers would clearly be heading for the Super Bowl. But he's something weird happens where he doesn't see a guy. His risk meter is, off kilter just a little bit in big situations.
So he's one of the more fascinating character studies, because there's always been something, right? With Burrow, it's always been the line's terrible. How is he going to get hurt this year? Where does any running game come from? Because there's never been question about the weapons that he has. Chase, Higgins, they generally find a way to get production out of the tight end room. And then you get a guy like Brown to step up and carry some of the load, take some of the blame off them. They still want to throw it. They want to throw it on every down if they could, both the coach, the quarterback, hell, the team, right? And when you look at Herbert and how much they had protected him, I mean, last year he threw it less than any other not just star quarterback, but anybody who was good or that you would think was going to be in this conversation to be on Mount Rushmore medal stand. And when you talk about having everything that you need, height, weight, speed, ability, accuracy, I mean, he can put balls in places where literally nobody else can. And then at the same time, you see him miss dudes running wide open. And one of the first times I saw that this year was Quentin Johnston, where he was in between being the Quentin Johnston that had, I think he had TDs first 4 games, 5 in the first 6, something like that. And then he had a groin injury and was out for a game and kind of became this forgotten man as Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, Gadsden steps up. End of the day, what you're sitting here is you got a 6'6", howitzer who can also move, who's willingly doing so, which was a thing that he, wasn't doing previously. But you're going to end up with like 4 or 5 guys with 50 catches. You talk about everybody eats. Like, it doesn't matter who's up that week. He's going to find ways to get the job done. And that's not just, hey, I got to overcompensate for this leaky pass rush because my line's terrible. And he's just getting drilled, not just pressured and hit. I mean, there are guys on other teams going out of their way to not hurt the kid. I mean, I'm talking about opposing pass rushers letting go or lifting up or pulling him in a certain way because there's so many dudes meeting at the quarterback. I think part of the glitch in him is like the oh shit meter is beyond touchdown, first down, get down. It's touchdown, run for your life. And it's like a different deal with this guy where if you can block him up and get Omari and Hampton going and it's a play action game versus a drop back game is where it gets real scary.
No doubt about it. Okay, so those are the 3 most likely. You also have the Jags in there. I mean, that'd probably be the opponent that I'd most like to see. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, Blake Bortles, revenge. Give me any opportunity to get Blake Bortles revenge and never have to say that again.
Yeah. So, but eliminating the Jags, which of those 3 teams would you most want to see in terms of you think the Steelers would beat them wild card weekend?
Oh, buddy. Each one of them has revenge factors. Each one of them has pros and cons, right? So if the most likely one is Houston, I think that's where you want to lean because you're like, if that's what's most likely to happen, how do you get that job done? And what I love about that is you get Tomlin versus D'Amico. So there's like some head-to-head, like D'Amico is who Tomlin was. Like that's one of the most interesting coach because of what it represents from what did he say today? I got my windshield's way bigger than my rear view.
Yeah.
Well, D'Amico Ryans is the rear view and he's coming 150 miles an hour. And, the Harbaugh one is kind of like two old Titans, not necessarily 2 old dogs because they still got a ton of bite, but I think they're a lot different than they were when they were much younger, players and coaches at different levels and the success they've had respectively. And then the Buffalo one from a revenge factor, given just the physical way that they just, I mean, that was like, I hated everything about that game, right? So like, which one do I feel the most comfortable about? Probably the Chargers, just because you have to assume Highsmith, Herbig, Watt, even if it's only for 25 or 30 snaps, and Sawyer and company on the edges alone, right? If you get any push inside from Harmon, Hayward, Black and company, Benton, if you get him into a drop back situation, I feel like the Chargers is the one where they have the biggest opportunity to affect and dictate tempo however you slice it, whereas the other 2 feel like teams where they would have to either play a perfect game or play really, really good and have a few things go their way.
I can dig it. Leave a comment down below who you'd prefer to see the Steelers host wild card weekend, assuming they can beat the Ravens. And I don't know how much you can assume that right now. And we'll look forward to, continuing to preview that game in upcoming days. Let's bring it back to Pittsburgh, New Bear, though. You mentioned Tomlin and the windshield bigger than the rear view. Yeah. The best moment from the presser might have been when he said, it's humbling and an honor to be part of the AFC North Championship game. I wanted to just scream bleep you at the screen. But then I tried to have a little bit more of an overstanding about it and appreciate where he's coming from. And here's what I got for you on that. I get being intentionally positive internally even at the expense of logic. Like, logic doesn't necessarily have to flow when you're talking to the team, but when you're talking to the media and talking to the fans, it kind of feels like somebody's peeing on you and telling you that it's just raining. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody outside of the team needs that positive message right now. Nobody wants that positive message right now. It sucks donkeys that you got to play week 18.
So isn't it ridiculous that, like, the guy who's the anti-Belichick, right? Like, Belichick would come to the podium and just grumble. Belichick would come, he'd just grunt and make noises. Like, Matt Light told this great story where Matt Light wanted to go hunting and asked if he could stay, and Belichick didn't say anything. He just looked at him and grunted, and Matt Light just kept talking, and eventually he ends up talking himself out of wanting to ask to go hunting and almost apologizing and then leaving, being like, why did I even do it? Tomlin literally gets up there and is like, I'm going to open the thesaurus and see how many ways I can talk about how we just blew this game and see if anyone catches what I'm actually not saying. And it's the most ridiculous, like, Tomlin Tuesdays. The thing that you said, the bleep you at the screen thing, right, is like, when you look at that game, there is no way, meaning the Cleveland game, there is no way to say one of two things. My team wasn't prepared, or my team didn't get the message. It's not about executing better. Scotty Miller wasn't fucking open. The other guys were, you know, like, when you start looking at Marcus Valdes-Scantling at the end of the, like, he wasn't open and he didn't run the right route. So either Aaron Rodgers has gone rogue and you just have to go over the top of that and give everybody Tomlinisms and all this other bullshit to focus on. Hashtag fire Mike Tomlin. Nothing needs to change because the standard is the standard, even if that doesn't mean championships, because it's 9-8 and getting the brakes beat off us in the wild card round. Everyone can focus on that, and then maybe he can go back into the teepee and figure out how to get Aaron Rodgers to run the play that was actually called when Artie calls it. Like, I actually think it's more of a, how do I show up and be a robot so that when the door closes, I can get the actual work that needs to get done.
We have so much to talk about. I feel like you're on fire, and there's so many ways I could take that, but I'm stuck on the Scotty Miller 4th and 1 ball, because it's like my pet peeve when quarterbacks in OC say, well, if I got one-on-one on the outs on one side and 3 guys plus a safety on the other, I'm going up top every single time. You know, I don't need to think about anything else. It's Scotty freaking Miller, bro. He's 32 years old. He didn't even have a quarter step on him when you let that ball go. But it is so damn annoying. Like, that's what happened on the Dez Cottet ball for the Cowboys against the Packers in 2014. You had 3 yards for a first down. Cole Beasley's wide open, but Tony Romo, with 4.5 minutes left in the game, is saying, well, I got Dez one-on-one on the outside. I don't need to look at anything else. I'm going up top. Screw you. You're going to give the ball back to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers in MVP form in 2014. Even if you score that touchdown, he's got plenty of time to stick the dagger in your back still. There's just nothing about it that makes sense. But I think it's this bravado or this love affair with going up top. You're letting the defense dictate to you in those situations. They're saying, yeah, go ahead, take it. You want to take a 40-yard shot at the end zone on 4th and 1, go for it, buddy. And they're playing you, not the other way around.
Yeah, and we even act like DK Metcalf is Megatron, or, you know, whoever your favorite, Randy Moss. Like, there's a problem with the communication, the same way we talked about the defense early in the season, not being able to signal things and get into, like, we talked about playing the play that's called, right? And I bitch, moan, and complain so much about Cam Hayward saying, hey, even if the perfect play isn't called, if we execute perfectly, then we can still get the job done. This is not that. Like, they're actually calling plays to get dudes open. They are calling intentional picks. They're not rubs, they're picks. They're running pick plays to get lesser athletic dudes, older dudes open. And Aaron Rodgers is just like, nah, nothing to see here. I'm mashing circle or triangle or square or whatever I've determined. I don't know what the conversation is like during the week where you say, hey, we're going to chip, we're going to bump, we're going to double, we're going to slide to Myles Garrett, and every opportunity that you're in and 1 or inches, go ahead and let that sucker go 50 yards downfield. Because the problem isn't the decision even. The problem isn't the not waiting for and allowing the play to develop and letting a Thielen come wide open at the sticks. The problem is you threw the ball 5 yards out of bounds. The problem is you weren't even close. And that was the thing that I was focused so much on with the Roman Wilson season or lack thereof is every time you take a shot, it's not like the ball is glancing off the dude, whizzing by his ear hole. It's out of bounds. There's
well, it's just that goes to my point. You need a yard or you need 3 yards, and you're putting a ball up so far down the field into space, hoping a receiver can perfectly run into it. Even the best quarterbacks are under 50% in those situations. You know, that the defense is like, great, they're going to take less of a coin flip chance to go ahead and take this deep shot. I think you're playing right into the hands of the defense there, and you need to be more disciplined. And I think the same thing happened on the Kenny Gainwell over the middle on the goal line stuff to end the game. Okay, there's so many things to talk about, bro. We got Tomlin optimistic about the possibility of TJ Watt playing. Obviously, that's a huge factor. This team just desperately needs to get healthy, and we're looking at Pierre, Calvin Austin, Eccles, and Sayamalu. Like this injury situation is the biggest storyline of the week. And I think TJ Watt is just part of it, not the whole thing.
This is going to be an extremely momentum-based conversation because, unfortunately, this is a team that has to front run. You talk about really talented front-running teams that are just soft. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are soft. I just don't think they're as talented as the money, as the spend should dictate. And they're not going to play scheme-wise in a way that's going to allow them. There is no greatest show on turf. There is no Shanahan McVay. There's nothing inside of this group between the talent that they have and the schemes that they run that is going to all of a sudden turn them into a nicknameable entity, right? So they're not soft. They just, on any given Sunday, if they don't show up and get out in front or play the way that they want to and dictate to the other team, they're going to lose. And that's why Buffalo can do what Buffalo did. And that's why the end of the Baltimore game and getting that call from the refs, or the way things happened at the end of the Lions game, people complaining about MVS not getting pass interference on Denzel Ward. How much more egregious was that than the Amon-Ra offensive pass interference that was called? So like, week to week, there is so much variance between the rest that the team has, the health, right? The way they're trying to play that day, what they've brought in the copycat league from the week before, or what they're trying to put on tape for the week next, and all this other stuff. The problem is the Steelers have none of that because, like we said 6 months ago, they were going to treat these 18 weeks like glorified individual scrimmages. And when they were 4-1 and looked like they were going to run away with the North, nobody cared. And now here we are in week 18, and we're going all the way to waiting all day for Carrie Underwood on Sunday night. And they better hope Lamar Jackson doesn't have a cape in his locker.
Better hope. He's about 50-50 right now. Huge storyline. Although I don't think it's easy. Like there's an argument to be made that Huntley plus full-on Derrick Henry is more fearsome right now than Lamar Jackson with whatever Henry they decide to give.
The only reason I say that is because if Lamar is actually healthy, meaning he becomes a run component, and even though he only ran it like 7 or 8 times the last time they played, it was 6+. They're all critical stuff. You're going to get in for. I think Lamar Jackson, because of the injuries and also because of a lot of stuff that's going on internally, they have a lot of the same problems the Steelers do with talent, with system, with play calls, with the quarterback thinking he's bigger than it all. Like all the things we talk about with Aaron Rodgers exist with Lamar Jackson. This is just the first year Father Time has started to take a bite out of his ass. And all I'm talking about is TJ Watt, last time they played, he's crashing. He's going to hit the running back. There is no read option because Lamar is banged up. If Lamar is running Lamar and you have to play the zone read truly, or the run, the counter and the Q series off of that, and all the things, here comes Zay Flowers on a reverse, like all the things that you have to stay home for and be true for, that's where you get 299 in a playoff game, and Minkah Fitzpatrick gets L2'd on his way out of town.
Week 18 already looking like a playoff game. Can't wait to talk more about this with you as the week goes on. Till then, for New Bear, I'm Dawson. We'll see you here on the Knoll Road.